All right, welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive?
Absolutely. Always ready to jump into something interesting.
Well, today's going to be a bit of a wild ride, I think.
Ooh.
Yeah, we're looking at just a single video this time.
Okay.
It's called Lefties Losing It, Ladies of the View 221.mp4.
Catch a title.
And I'll be honest, it's pretty clear right away that this one leans way to the right, politically speaking.
I see. So we're diving into some conservative commentary today.
You got it. So get ready for some hot takes on everything from, well, Elon Musk's family.
Musk, huh?
Oh, yeah, he's front and center right at the start.
Okay, what's he up to in this video?
Well, it starts with him taking his son, the one named X, to some kind of press conference.
Right, I remember hearing about that. Unusual name.
And right away, the video goes after Whoopi Goldberg.
From The View.
The one and only. They basically call her out for making fun of the kid's name.
I mean, I could see how that'd be tempting. X isn't exactly traditional.
But the video doesn't just stop at criticizing Goldberg.
It doesn't.
Nope. They bring up the fact that she, changed her own name.
She did. She did know that.
Oh, yeah. Her birth name was Karen Elaine Johnson.
Wow, that's quite a change.
And they kind of imply that she chose Whoopi for a pretty, let's say, unsavory reason.
So it's trying to paint her as a hypocrite.
Exactly. Like, who is she to judge anyone's name?
Clever tactic, even if it's a bit below the belt.
But then, get this, they cut to a clip of little X at the press conference, and he's, urging people to save America and help Trump.
Hold on, a 4-year-old giving a political speech.
Well, maybe not a full-blown speech.
Yeah.
But the video definitely frames it that way. And, it comes right after the whole Whoopi Goldberg bit.
So they're contrasting the innocent child with the out-of-touch liberal.
Bingo. It's like they're trying to make X into this mini Trump figure.
Interesting. Building up the next generation, so to speak.
Yeah, and it all plays into this whole traditional values under attack narrative.
Okay, I'm starting to see the bigger picture they're going for here.
So we've got Musk, his son, Whoopi Goldberg, all tangled up in this web of commentary, but it doesn't stop there.
What's next?
Well, from billionaires and talk show hosts, we jump to preachers.
Preachers. Okay, this should be interesting.
Oh, it is. Remember that Tennessee preacher who basically seemed to be advocating violence against Musk?
Vaguely, something about Musk being a threat to people's finances?
Right, because of his, whole financial empire thing.
I see. And this preacher was what, calling for action against him?
It was pretty strongly worded, yeah. But then the video immediately cuts to this Canadian reverend who thinks Christians shouldn't even use the word savior anymore.
Whoa, hold on, why not?
Because, get this, he thinks it might offend people of other faiths.
So on one hand, you have this call to, well, possibly violence. And on the other, a call for extreme sensitivity.
Yeah, it's a pretty jarring shift.
And I bet that's exactly what the video wants us to feel, right? Like, look at these double standards.
You're catching on fast. They're pointing out what they see as hypocrisy, especially on the left.
It's a classic tactic. Highlight the extremes to make your opponents look unreasonable.
And speaking of extremes, this whole thing leads right into the culture wars.
Oh, buckle up.
They show this clip of some guy ranting about their pronouns.
That's a hot button topic for sure.
He's accusing Wikipedia of being, and I quote, infected with far-left lunacy.
Trying to undermine the sources of information, I see.
Then, bam, they hit us with Sarah Walls.
Walls as in Tim Walls' daughter.
Yep, the one and only. And she's criticizing Trump's executive order about transgender athletes in women's sports.
So we're jumping back and forth between these polar opposite viewpoints.
It's like they're deliberately setting up this clash between, traditionalists and progressives.
A classic culture war battle.
That just when you think they can't get any more provocative, they throw in this totally random curveball, Ella Emhoff.
Emhoff. Wait, Kamala Harris's stepdaughter?
The very same. And she's promoting, get this, body hair positivity.
Body hair positivity. What does that even have to do with anything we've been talking about?
On the surface, absolutely nothing.
But knowing this video, I'm guessing they're making a point with it somehow.
Oh, absolutely. It's like they're saying, look how absurd things have gotten.
Right, like we're arguing about pronouns while the vice president's stepdaughter is talking about body hair.
It's meant to make you feel like society's lost its priorities.
Okay, I get it. Create a sense of unease, make the viewer question where we're all headed.
You've got the gist of it. So we've got attacks on the left, some religious controversy thrown in, a deep dive into the culture wars, and where do we go from there?
Well, knowing this video, I'm guessing somewhere equally pointed.
You're not wrong. Next up, they tackle immigration, and it gets intense.
Oh boy, I can already imagine. Bring on the hot takes.
All right, so we've seen how this video, sets the stage with those early examples, going after certain figures and really leaning into those culture war hot button topics.
It's like they're laying the groundwork for their argument, right? Trying to get the viewer on their side early on.
Exactly, and now they shift gears a bit.
Oh. Where do they go next?
Well, they start highlighting what they consider to be the triumphs of the Trump administration, like a highlight reel of his successes.
Okay, so we're shifting from criticism to praise now.
You got it. And the first thing they bring up is the confirmation of Tulsi Gabbard as Director of National Intelligence.
Gabbard, interesting. She's, well, she's had a pretty unique political trajectory.
Right. And the video really emphasizes how her appointment got bipartisan support, with Mitch McConnell being the only one who voted against her.
So they're trying to present it as a moment of unity, like even those on the other side of the aisle recognize her qualifications.
That's one way to look at it. But, they also kind of throw a little shade at McConnell in the process.
Really? How so?
Well, they mention his recent health issues, almost like they're implying that maybe he wasn't thinking clearly when he cast that vote.
Ah, I see. A subtle dig at his competence.
Exactly. It's all part of this bigger strategy, propping up anyone who supports Trump and subtly undermining anyone who doesn't.
It's all about controlling the narrative.
And to keep that positive momentum going, they move on to another supposed victory for Trump, the release of that U.S. hostage, Mark Fogel.
Fogel, right, the one who was detained in Russia for years.
Yep, that's the one. And the video really plays up his gratitude towards Trump, like he calls him a hero for getting him released.
Powerful imagery, right? Tapping into that whole idea of Trump as the strong leader who protects American citizens abroad.
It's like they want you to feel relieved, grateful, maybe even a little bit patriotic.
Appealing to emotions, for sure. But does it stop there?
Nope, not even close. They then go on to suggest that Trump is on the verge of achieving another major foreign policy win, peace in Ukraine.
Whoa, hold on. Peace in Ukraine, that's a bold claim.
It is, but they present it with such confidence.
How do they even back that up?
Well, this is where Emmy Horowitz comes back into the picture. He offers his analysis, suggesting that a deal is imminent and that Europe is finally coming around to Trump's perspective on the conflict.
So they're using Horowitz to lend credibility to this claim.
Exactly. It's like they're weaving together Trump's own statements with Horowitz's commentary to create this sense of inevitability, like peace is just around the corner thanks to Trump.
It's almost like they're rewriting history, suggesting that Trump is the one who's truly capable of solving this complex international crisis.
And that plays right into their narrative, doesn't it? Setting up Trump as the savior, the only one who can fix things.
It's a very strategic way to frame things, that's for sure. So from hostages to potential peace deals, they're painting a very positive picture of Trump's foreign policy record.
But they don't shy away from addressing ongoing conflicts either.
Oh, what do they focus on next?
Well, the video abruptly shifts from the hopeful prospect of peace in Ukraine to the much more tense situation in the Middle East, specifically the conflict between Israel and Hamas.
That's a pretty stark contrast, going from peace to, well, potential war.
And they don't waste any time reminding us of the deadline set by Trump for Hamas to release all those hostages.
Right, that was a big news story, a lot of tension surrounding that deadline.
And the video really emphasizes the potential consequences if Hamas doesn't comply, really creating this sense of urgency.
But they don't actually say what those consequences might be, do they?
Nope. They leave it up to the viewer's imagination, which, can be pretty effective.
Right, it allows people to fill in the blanks with their own fears and assumptions.
And of course, Andy Horowitz is right there to offer his expert opinion.
What does he have to say about it?
Well, he compares Trump's approach to what he thinks would happen under, and I quote, a hypothetical Biden presidency.
Ah, I see, setting up that classic us versus them dichotomy.
Yep. Horowitz basically suggests that Biden would be weak, that he'd appease Hamas and pressure Israel into making concessions, putting the hostages at risk.
So it's Trump, the strong leader, versus Biden, the weak appeaser.
That's the narrative they're pushing, for sure. And they even bring up the Jordanian king's visit to the White House, talking about Trump's call for greater involvement from Middle Eastern countries in resolving the crisis.
It's like they're trying to show Trump as this global leader, working behind the scenes to build alliances and solve complex problems.
And they even throw in a mention of the potential for normalized relations between Saudi Arabia and Israel, framing it as another potential win for Trump and his ability to, broker peace in the region.
So many layers to this narrative. It's really quite impressive how they weave it all together.
It's all about creating this image of Trump as a master strategist, a deal maker, a leader who can achieve what others can't.
And speaking of achieving the seemingly impossible, they end this segment by discussing Trump's decision to withdraw the U.S. from the World Health Organization.
Oh yeah, that was a big one. A lot of controversy surrounding that move.
How do they present it in the video?
Well, they frame it as a bold and necessary step to hold the WHO accountable for, their perceived mishandling of the COVID-19 pandemic and their ties to China.
So they're tapping into that distrust of international organizations in China.
Exactly. And they even highlight the fact that Argentina might follow suit, suggesting that there's this growing global movement against the WHO.
But do they acknowledge the criticism of that decision at all?
They show a clip of the WHO chief pleading with the U.S. to reconsider, but they don't seem very optimistic about the possibility of real reform.
And of course, Emmy Horowitz is there to offer his perspective.
Yep, he expresses skepticism about the WHO's willingness to change and argues that countries should use their economic leverage to force reform.
So they're presenting a very specific, very critical view of the WHO, and they're not exactly mincing words.
It's all part of this larger narrative they've been building, right? Highlighting what they see as the failures of international institutions and the need for strong America First leadership.
Okay, I'm really starting to grasp the scope of this video now. They've gone from personal attacks to cultural commentary to praising Trump's accomplishments to criticizing international organizations, all woven together into this coherent, albeit very biased, story.
And that's what makes this video so fascinating to analyze, right? It's a masterclass in persuasive rhetoric, even if you don't agree with the message.
It really is. It shows how carefully chosen examples and strategic framing can be used to shape public opinion and influence people's perceptions of reality.
So what does this all mean for us as viewers? What should we take away from this deep dive into this, well, rather opinionated video?
That's the big question, isn't it? How do we navigate this world of information overload and competing narratives?
I mean, it's like they took all these, hot button issues and kind of mashed them together to make this picture of what they think the left is all about.
Yeah, and that's where it gets, I think, really important for us as, viewers, as people who are consuming all this information.
So it's not just about fact-checking every little thing.
Well, always good, but yeah, it's bigger than that.
It's about recognizing the narrative they're trying to build.
Exactly. Think about the intention, What are they trying to get you to believe?
And how are they using all these examples, these little snippets, to do that?
Right. It's like, those optical illusions where the same image can look like two different things.
Depending on how you look at it.
Yeah, this video is kind of like that. They're presenting a very specific perspective, and they're using all these, carefully chosen moments to make their case.
So how do we, as viewers, not get, tricked by that?
Well, for one thing, think about the source. Who made this video? What's their angle?
It's like checking the nutrition label on your food, right?
Exactly. You want to know what you're consuming. And same with information, you got to be aware of where it's coming from.
But it's not just about avoiding stuff we disagree with.
Or
right?
definitely not. In fact, it's almost the opposite.
You mean we should actually seek out stuff that challenges our views?
I think so, yeah.
Huh?
It can be uncomfortable, sure, but that's where the real learning happens.
When you have to really think about why you believe what you believe.
Mm-hmm. And maybe even change your mind sometimes.
So we should be, active participants in how we consume information?
100%. Don't just passively absorb whatever you see. Question it. Think about it. Look for other perspectives.
That's a great takeaway. So for all of you listening out there, we're going to leave you with a little challenge.
Ooh, a challenge. I like it.
This video gave us one very specific, very, let's say, passionate view of things.
Definitely passionate.
But how would other sources present these same events? What other narratives are out there?
What different perspectives did we maybe miss?
That's what we want you to think about. Because a well-informed mind is one that's open to, well, to everything, even the stuff that makes you uncomfortable.
Exactly. So keep exploring, keep questioning, keep diving deep.
And thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.